Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June 5th meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, presented by Commissioner Garrison. Garrison.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Turley, would you call the roll, please, for the last time?
Commissioner Carroll is absent. Commissioner Kramer is absent. Commissioner Bell. Here. Commissioner Garretson. Here. Commissioner Jackal. Here. Chairman Rosler.
Here.
Commissioner Looney. Here. And neither student commissioner is present. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioners, before you are the minutes from our May 15th meeting. If you've had a chance to review them, if there are no changes, could we hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Garretson.
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Very good. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Jackal seconds. Please cast your vote. Very good. You guys are going to have to be brave tonight because Deborah and Michael are gone. So, all right. The next item on our agenda is agenda changes. Mr. Connolly, Mr. Resler, any changes to the agenda?
No changes. No changes to the agenda, Chairman.
All right. The next item on our agenda is oral communication. This is a time that the Commission sets aside for members of the public to address the Commission on items that are not on the agenda. I have no speaker slips, so if no one raises their hand and stands up, we will move along to our first public hearing. In our public hearings, staff will make a presentation. The applicant is afforded some time to expand on that to further present the project. We will ask questions of staff or the applicant, and then we will open it up for public testimony. You do need to fill out a speaker slip if you wish to address the commission, and turn it into our staff over here, Ms. Turley or Mr. Resler. Okay. Having technical difficulties here. Technology is wonderful until it doesn't work, so. Mr. Conley, would you give us the staff report on the North Santa Fe Apartments, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry about that. This is a site development plan, a vesting tentative subdivision map, and a condominium housing permit in the mixed-use zone on a 10.4-acre parcel to develop 305 attached multifamily units. They would be in 10 buildings, which would equate to 29 units per acre as the density of the project. It includes drainage improvements on and off-site, wet and dry utilities. The project includes 544 parking spaces for the 305 units, which would exceed the mixed-use zone requirements by 33 parking spaces. It includes private common open driveways with gated vehicular access on both North Santa Fe and Cananea, and a recreation facility, a pool and spa, fitness center, and a number of private amenities. The project site is located on North Santa Fe Avenue. Its address is 1309. It's just south of the Stater Brothers Center on the east side of North Santa Fe at the northeast corner of Cananea. The property is, as I indicated, 10.4 acres. It's 12 separate parcels that would all be included into one parcel as part of the vesting tentative map. The general plan land use designation is mixed use, which allows a density of 40 units to the acre. And the zoning is MU40, a corresponding mixed-use designation within the North Santa Fe overlay zone. Surrounding uses are shown here: commercial north and south of the site along Santa Fe, single-family residential behind to the east and to the west, and some multifamily southeast of the site. There's a drainage that extends across the eastern portion of the property, north to south, which is shown by kind of a heavily vegetated area. And there was a formerly developed property in the central portion of the site, which has, for the most part, been cleared and demolished. These are some photos of the property looking northeast from North Santa Fe and Cananea on the left, and looking northwest across the site near the drainage where it goes under the road at Cananea on the right. The site development plan is shown here on the right. The 10 buildings are shown in blue. They scattered across the site, different variations and configurations. I think there's 6 different building types. The pool and rec areas are shown in purple, which are just east of the main entry there, as well as on the north side of the property. There's some smaller amenities, including a dog run and another open space area. There's water quality basins along the eastern portion of the site that collect all the drainage from the project itself and discharge into a drainage structure that will be placed underground to carry drainage across the site where to accommodate the existing drainage that runs north-south across the property. There's also a mitigation area in the northern portion of the property, which is shown in the top part of the screen there in orange, where they would replant a sensitive plant species that is located on the site. There's also driveway access from North Santa Fe, which is shown on the left there, which would include a left turn lane into the site, so adjusting the median on North Santa Fe to accommodate a dedicated left into the property. They would be restricted from left out on North Santa Fe, and there would be a full access driveway that would be gated on Cananea in the southerly portion of the site, which are both shown with the red arrows. The parking for the project requires 511 spaces per the mixed-use zone requirements, which are shown in the table there. Those are based on bedroom count. The project provides a total of 544 spaces. The staff report and the EIR that were prepared for the project incorrectly identified a number of 565 spaces because loading spaces were double counted from a chart that's in the plan set. I apologize for that. I can't take responsibility for that at the staff level, but the 544 spaces that are provided still exceed the requirement by 33 spaces, and the project still meets the parking requirement and exceeds it. The correction to the number is shown in the conditions of approval for 544 spaces, which was included on the dais for your review. The landscaping plan is shown here. There's approximately 31% of the site is landscape, including street trees and extensive landscaping along the street frontages on Cananea and North Santa Fe. Includes the use of native and non-native species. And there is a 6-foot masonry screen wall required along the eastern boundary of the site where they share a zone with single-family residential. The proposed floor plans are shown here. There's one floor plan for studio units, which there are 33. There are 2 one-bedroom floor plans, which there are 150. And there are 4 different 2-bedroom floor plans, which there are 122. These are the building elevations. These 2 building types, C and E, would face the frontage on North Santa Fe. They give the main style of the project, a contemporary look with some varied roof lines and varied planes along the front of the building with the use of some metal canopies and punched metal balconies and railings for architectural details. This is the 4-sided elevation of building C to give perspective of the 4 sides, showing the garages on the lower left. And this is an artist's rendering showing the access point into the main project driveway at North Santa Fe. You can see there's a main corridor there into the entry that would provide some guest parking before you would enter into a gated area for the project. An environmental impact report was prepared for the project, and it was circulated for public review March and April of this year. We received 4 comment letters on the EIR, which are included in the final EIR that's in your packet, as well as all responses to those comments. The project would not trigger any significant unmitigated environmental impacts in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. There are mitigation required in the areas of biological, which is for the sensitive plant species and the drainage across the site. Cultural resources, which is largely protection and during construction of any cultural resources that are found. Noise for construction noise, and traffic for a cumulative impact at North Santa Fe and Taylor Street. The project proposes 305 units on 10.4 acres at 29 DU per acre. That's within the general plan mixed-use designation of 40 dwelling units per acre, so the land use and the density is consistent with the general plan. The project is consistent with the mixed-use zone development standards, which is detailed in Exhibit 4 of the staff report, and it's consistent with the city's design guidelines for multifamily development, which is also detailed in Exhibit 5 in the staff report. The project conforms to the general plan, zoning, design guidelines, and all applicable development standards. In accordance with the Housing Accountability Act, we're compelled to approve the project unless we can find a significant impact to public health and safety that's unmitigated. The project came before the Commission for early design review in June of last year. There were a number of issues raised, the primary one being parking. As we've discussed in several past reviews of multifamily projects, we are compelled to comply with the standards in the zoning, regardless of opinions as to whether or not it's sufficient. And so at the staff level, we've determined that the project exceeds the parking requirements in the mixed-use zone by 33 spaces, and therefore cannot look any further at parking impacts of the project. The building height and shadows was questioned. There is an architectural model included in the staff report that shows what the shadowing for adjacent properties would be during the lowest part of the sun in the sky during the wintertime. The traffic analysis was included in the EIR. There's a thorough analysis of the impacts of the project, north and south on Santa Fe, as well as east and west and all the major arterials. It analyzed every intersection for which the project contributed 50 or more peak hour trips. It identified a cumulative impact at North Santa Fe and Taylor, which would be mitigated with the payment of traffic impact fees. There were concerns about access into the site and U-turns on North Santa Fe and Cananea. The project includes a dedicated left into the site and a break in the median, so there will no longer be the need for extensive U-turns on Santa Fe to get into the main driveway. And Cananea, along the project frontage, going westbound at Santa Fe would be widened so that there would be a dedicated through left and a dedicated right to allow some better traffic movement out of the neighborhood. Pedestrian access is addressed through sidewalks, which are included throughout the project and connect to the public streets. And there was a request for cross-sections, which are included in the staff report as an exhibit. With that, the staff is recommending that you certify the EIR, adopt findings, and adopt an MMRP for the project, as well as adopt a resolution approving the site development plan, condominium housing permit investing tentative subdivision map for 305 units at 1309 North Santa Fe, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. Does the applicant have a presentation for us this evening?
Yes, he does.
Is it Mr. Meredith?
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Just wait one moment.
Sure.
We'll
Let's get the-
PowerPoint up. It might take a minute.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Hello, my name is Jeremy Meredith, and I'm pleased to be here today as the owner of Orion Pacific, which is developing the Presea project. While I've developed projects all over the country, I'm a local San Diegan, and I'm very excited to be developing a project in my hometown. I want to thank the staff for the robust presentation and the work the project has to date. Since they've already explained the technical aspects of the project and its compliance with your zoning requirements, I want to not repeat those points. Instead, today I want to talk to you about the vision and the mission of the Presea project. As we developed the vision of the project, I spent a lot of time researching the history of the land. We talked to the neighbors, we talked to the businesses in the area, and we talked to the city staff at length. You'll see in our community support demonstrated by the letters that we have. You also hear how the neighborhood hopes this project is a catalyst for renovation and upgrades for the community. I know I don't have to tell you all about Vista's rich agricultural heritage, especially as it relates to avocados. As we mentioned in our early design review, we have chosen the name Presea, which is a scientific name for the avocado tree. It's important to our team that this project has a name that is more than just an address. We want the project to be a part of Vista that we can all be proud of. In that vein, it's important for our team to also design a project that respects Vista's rich history while also paying homage to Vista of today, a burgeoning craft brewery community, a knowledge economy, an arts community, and an entrepreneurial ethos that makes Vista the jewel of North County. As you may know, this site is currently a vacant block covered with weeds, graffiti, and trash. We're in frequent communication with the Sheriff's Department and Vista Fire. And we know from the neighbors that they don't always feel safe living by the property. From crime to fire or trash, the site is a drain on city resources and an eyesore to the community. We want to change that. The goal for Presea is to create a home, one that Vistans will be proud to call home, and one that you will be excited to have in your community. We've designed a timeless yet modern project. Residents and visitors will arrive through a main street lined with decorative lighting, landscaping, and guest parking. The building exterior will include a combination of neutral colors accented by metal awnings, bronze storefront windows, and mesh panel railings. We feel these accents add a craftsman-inspired image on the building that won't quickly fade. The residential community is focused on a central building that hosts the majority of the amenities. The project will be accessed with one entry off North Santa Fe and one off North Cananea, both of which will be gated. We designed the project to respect the residential neighbors to our east by providing them a generous buffer and not building out to our maximum density. We've also oriented the adjacent buildings so the windows will not be facing the houses to the east. To address the Commission's concerns, we've conducted a shadow study showing that the project's 3 buildings have sufficient setbacks not to cast shadows on our residential neighbors. Something that residents near a new development always want to know is how it will impact traffic and parking. With regards to traffic, city's experts evaluated the traffic impacts of our project as well as other projects in the Vista development pipeline. Good news, the project has no significant direct impacts. In the long term, when combined with the cumulative impacts of other projects in Vista's pipeline, the impacts are still minimal. There is one intersection that has a significant impact at North Santa Fe and Taylor, which will see an increase of about 2 seconds of delay around the morning rush hour. While 2 seconds isn't much, I understand that any increase in traffic is not an ideal for the residents who have to make that part of their daily commute. In order to help the city mitigate increased traffic, we at Presea will be paying the city over $1.3 million to specifically mitigate traffic impacts. The other issue we hear most about is parking. Our goal is to make sure our residents and guests have a safe, accessible, and sufficient parking on site so they will not have to leave the project to park. In addition to garage spaces that can be directly accessed from units and parking distributed around the project, we are providing more spaces than required by city code. Second, we are making it inconvenient for residents and guests to park on surrounding streets by closing off Cosala so they can't park on residential streets and make it easily back into the site. Third, we have a parking management plan that requires us to inspect our tenants' garages to make sure they are used for parking, not self-storage. We've spent the last 2 years working with city staff, neighbors, community members, and local businesses. The project is 100% by right, and we are not asking for a variance. Despite that, we're not required to create an EIR. We wanted to welcome public's feedback, and we volunteered to go through the EIR process. We only received 4 comments, and we have 7 letters from the community members supporting the project, as you will see in your staff report. Another component I know is important to many on the Planning Commission and the City Council is the number and quality of the amenities. The City Code requires the project of this size to have 3 amenities. We will have 3 to 4 times the number of those amenities in our project. They've been designed to take advantage of the great weather in Vista and blend both indoor and outdoor spaces. On the ground floor, there's a club room hosting social gatherings that will open onto outdoor grilling and lounge areas. There's a large resort-inspired pool with spa, grill, cabanas, and fire pits. We'll have what we call the shed, which is it will be a space where residents can check out equipment to explore a new hobby, whether it be stand-up paddleboarding or mountain biking. We'll have a multi-level fitness facility that opens to an outdoor turf area. On the second floor, there'll be a fitness studio with fitness on demand that will offer a free service that'd be like Netflix for fitness classes for residents. We have a co-working space where people who work and study from home will have options to work in a more private space or in a larger space to collaborate. On the third floor, we've tried to give a nod to the creative types in Vista by having a maker's room where people can use industrial sewing machines, 3D printers, and easels to fulfill the creative side. For the more sporty, we have a sports simulation room where people can golf with friends without having to leave their home. That room will transition to a craft beer lounge that will host tastings from local breweries and that will open off to a roof deck. The roof deck looks out into the pool and spa area. It has hard and soft landscaping with fire pits and places for people to visit with each other. In other parts of the project, we also have pocket parks with games, a dog run, and a dog wash. Finally, I want to tell you a little bit more about how we like to weave the history of Vista into our present and into our inspiration. You may recognize this as wood from a bowling alley. It's not just any bowling alley. It's the wood from the lanes at Vista Entertainment Center, founded almost 60 years ago. You probably know that it was demolished recently. So many Vistans have told me that how sad it was to lose an iconic place. So I started thinking about how we could keep that in Vista. I was able to track down the wood from the bowling alley. I purchased 6 lanes from the bowling alley, and we're going to incorporate them into Presea. Whether it's a big table in the maker's room, a counter in the craft lounge, we think it's important to keep it in Vista, and we'll include a plaque that speaks to its history. As you can tell, I'm really excited about the opportunity to bring this project to Vista. Thank you for giving me the time to discuss Presea with you. Our goal is that Presea will be a home for the entrepreneur who needs to be close to the 78 corridor, the brewer who wants to walk to work, and the young family who isn't quite ready to buy a house, but wants a safe, engaging, and convenient place to live. We've tried to preserve Vista's rich history and harness its bright future, and we're excited to be in front of you today for approval. The expert development team that's worked on this project is here and available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Meredith. Any questions from the commissioners of staff or Mr. Meredith? Commissioner Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Connolly, I saw in the presentation and in the staff report that it's going to be about $1.324 million in traffic fees coming from this project.
Correct.
Was it? I think it was a couple of weeks ago in one of our meetings, and I assume it's going before the city council at some point. Can you remind us what the traffic improvement was going to be for the north part of Vista above the 78 in the future? There was something to do with the light, the CIP. Is that what it was?
Oh, we're doing a traffic upgrade where we're connecting all of the traffic signals to a communication system that's central to City Hall here, so we can have video detection and better communicate with the signal software and hardware at the location of the traffic signal. So in real time, they can change up operations when there's significant congestion.
Perfect. And something like these fees, although different in time, going into the budget, being spent on different things, this is the same budget area that's being used on with this project you just discussed?
Yeah, those fees are restricted to traffic improvements through the CIP.
Okay. That's all I had. Thanks.
Commissioner Jackal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this the time for questions of the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Meredith, thank you. There are a lot of things about your project that I really like, and I especially like your kind of point of view about it, so I like that. I'm quite concerned, while you showed us many of the recreational amenities that you provided, I'm quite concerned that the pocket parks don't seem to have any sort of like play equipment for children. And presumably, if these are to be young families, they're going to be little kids. So I'm just concerned that that doesn't seem to be included.
I understand that. We have done a very deep dive on the demographics of who we think will be renting here. And as you have seen, it's 60% is studios and one bedrooms. And so when we see it more as sort of the up-and-comers, people who are just getting out and can afford to move out of mom and dad's home, people who are just starting a family and saving up to buy a first home. And so we don't anticipate there being a lot of toddler and older kids there. That said, I know firsthand how important that is for a family. I can say that it's very important to have something like that in the community. And again, firsthand know that if something's within a mile, it will be used. And within a mile, we have the Vista Sports Park, Vista High School, Maryland Elementary School, California Avenue School, Luz Duran Park, Rain Tree Park, the Antique Gas and Steam Museum, and Rancho Guajame Adobe. So I think there are plenty of opportunities that if people did have older children, that it's a hop, skip, and a jump to get there to use those resources.
I definitely understand that. I'm just worried about the little kids.
Right.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson?
I too have questions about the amenities. Specifically, if you have 122 two-bedroom apartments, you could have 150 kids. And 150 kids split evenly under 10 and over 10, this does not address their needs. And there are places fairly close, but they're not necessarily close enough to walk the kids there. You've got to put them in a car and take them there, either because of traffic, lack of sidewalks, or whatever the case may be. So I have a major concern about not having something for that, for those 150 to 200 kids who are going to be here. Where are they going to play?
I understand that. We've done a very deep dive. We've communicated with the other apartment communities, especially the ones on Melrose and on Oceanside Boulevard, Bobier. And they were ahead of the market to us. They thought it was going to be a much more family-oriented community. They were surprised that it was a much younger community. As you might know, Vista is one of the youngest communities in North County. And so we are looking to cater to that group, that they have 3 bedrooms. We do not have 3 bedrooms. We're the only one in the area that offers studios. And we're really targeting groups that want a more active life that's centered around the amenities that we have to offer.
I think you're missing the boat on, those kids who are going to be in those 2-bedroom apartments. All your amenities address older kids and adults, not the 10-year-old or the 5-year-old or the 13-year-old. There are a lot of parks around, but nothing real close.
Right. I mean, I
My
think,
position.
again, speaking from personal experience, I know what kids like, not that I'm a kid, but that I have kids. And I think between the pool and the spa and the craft room, those are activities that kids can enjoy and be there. The Maker's Room can be there to enjoy.
You did say that you had a grass play area?
We do.
Okay. So older kids could play there, so. Any other questions for the applicant? I have a couple. In the mitigation area, and I'm sorry you have to do a mitigation area on site. I think it would be much better to take those resources and put them someplace, San Luis Rey in the old golf
We
course,
tried,
or and the agencies didn't allow you? They
That's
wanted
correct.
it preserved
They wanted it
on
on
site?
site.
Okay. In the mitigation area, there's a strip that runs across it diagonally. What is that?
To enclose the currently unenclosed city storm sewer or storm drain system, we have to connect the pipes to the north of us, to the south of us, to complete the city storm drain. We are doing that, and it happens to be in that preserve area. And so while the plants may propagate into that area, we can't move any plants in there, because if at some date they had to come in and excavate, we couldn't do that.
Okay. Is that area going to be accessible for your residents to go to the shopping center to the north?
No, it will not. It'll be
Okay.
enclosed. We have to put together a sizable endowment to maintain and monitor it in perpetuity. So we want those plants to live, and well,
I have a little bit of experience with Brodia filifolia, and it's a pretty tough, hardy plant, so I think you'll be successful. So
I appreciate that.
anyway, and then thank you for the shadow study. I think Ms. Gonzalez Medellin is going to speak later, but I noticed in the shadow study it stopped at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why is that?
I can have the architect speak to that. It's the longest day of the year, and sunset gets later. As you see, it's on one property of the probably dozen properties. It's less than a foot. That property actually has an encroachment onto our property by a foot, so it's technically our property. But that, I think it's a standard.
Is that an industry standard for shadow studies that stop them or cut them off at 3 o'clock?
And we picked 3 days of the year. That was the longest day of the year for that.
I saw that. Name and address for Ms. Turley.
Good evening. My name is Serafin Moranin, Principal Architects Orange, 144 North Orange, Orange, California. The shadow study that we did is typical of the industry standard. We used the winter solstice, which would be the lowest angle of the sun. So at 3 o'clock, that's pretty much what it would show as a consequence of how the sun would hit the buildings and how the shadows would cast over the rest of the property.
And for the vast majority of the shadows, they don't go off-site, do they?
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So this is the spring equinox, summer solstice, where it's almost directly overhead the entire time, and this is the longest day of the year, which is the worst case scenario. We have 50 to 100 foot buffers along that property line.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioner Bill, hang on just a second. Commissioner Bill?
Don't go anywhere. I seem to remember during the early evaluation, we had talked about some changes to the entrance and the gates and the gate code. I know you've got a close-up in here of the entrance gate, and it looks like you created a separate lane with, I assume, a keypad or something for cars to get in.
That's correct.
And I mean, I know the answer is yes, but you've measured cars doing U-turns, turning around, plenty of space to navigate, because I seem to remember that being a possible issue a year ago.
It was an issue, and the team can attest to. We looked at it a number of ways. We feel comfortable with it, and have done fire truck turning radiuses, and we don't want our investment to be run over. So,
and the idea is that you've got leasing office parking and either guest or some form of designated designated parking outside of the gates?
Yes, the entire entry drive is ungated, so we'll have reserved spaces for 3 to 7 spaces out front, one for the mail USPS as they require. Not working, but
that's all right.
the entire entry drive is guest parking that you can see as you go down the site.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes, just confirm for me what I read in the prints, that there are sidewalks throughout. I know that was stated in the overview, but there are sidewalks throughout, at least on one side or both sides?
There's an ADA path of travel throughout the project from every unit into the common areas. That's correct.
And there's cement sidewalks?
I'd have to. Correct.
And do you have pavers where there's crossing?
We're looking at doing that. That's correct. We'd like to do enhanced paving. You can see on the artist rendering here, we just have it on the entry drive, but we look to have, it's kind of the fun part going forward if we get approval today, is to intersperse some playful ways to be both functional and creative.
I think because of the number of kids there, that's something that I would like to see in our approval or whatever.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll open the public hearing now, and the first speaker's slip I have is for Laura Gonzalez Mendez.
Hello, name's Laura Gonzalez Mendez. I reside on 322 Canania Street, and I am here to speak in opposition to the Presea project on North Santa Fe, because the basis of the presentation that was made on June 6, 2017 was that it will help remedy the homelessness and reduce the drug violence in the area. Those were kind of the points that were brought up frequently when talking about this development, and I reside in the area, and I want to bring forward the issues that this isn't going to really help our existing residents. If anything, it's going to cause more harm to our community, seeing as this is a resident that really relies on the walkways. So throughout the whole construction period of 18 months, it would actually block off and cause an obstruction to safety for the students that rely on commuting through the sidewalks to the Beaubier and Vista High School. And I also think that if they were to develop, that they should widen those sidewalks as a benefit to our existing residents. And also, I don't think that the EIR really presents enough information on how the coyote activity has changed, and a lot of the bird species has changed since the other previous developments in Vista, like those in Vista Village, the lower income housing, and Sky Apartments on Beaubier and Melrose. It has changed to the fact that it is now influencing or impacting the residents around this project site, where there are more coyote attacks on domesticated animals, and there are more sightings within the community of coyotes. It also doesn't include how it's going to influence the school budgets for the neighboring schools of Vista High School and Beaubier. Currently, there isn't enough funding for Vista High School. That is changing with the growth of the enrollment. And instead, there's actually been more policing and security on campus, including a contraband dog that is not only incriminating our students and our youth, but it is actually depriving them of having a proper education, seeing as there isn't enough funding for their athletic programs and their educational plans. So this is why I don't agree with this plan, because it's not really considering the existing residents. It is considering a demographic that doesn't even exist in the area right now. I know that we want to say that the demographic is young, but it's also part of a senior community that really needs safe walkways as a way to exercise in a park, to have recreational activity, because our senior community does need to have access to those things. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have a speaker slip from Jeff Forrest, but I assume he's part of the applicant's team?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And Cindy Odu-Amen? Did I get that right?
My name is Cindy Odo-Amen. I am resident of Vista, at 92083. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am very excited to see the project. It looks like a wonderful project. However, it does nothing for the community. And I'm compelled to speak today because I wanted to share a story that happened to my mother. I lost her on the corner of Santa Fe and Bobier 17 years ago, simply because I did not speak out about how fast the traffic was going down from Bobier. And now I hear many people in our neighborhood alarmed about numerous near-traffic accidents, trying to negotiate the influx of cars in our neighborhood. And you probably don't have any idea what kind of traffic we have to deal with trying to come out of Knapp onto Santa Fe or Knapp onto Bobier. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we have to deal with 3 public schools in a 1-mile radius. And we have mega apartment on Bobier and Melrose, and there's another one coming up, looks like on other side of the Sky apartment. During the week, the rush hours are horrendous. Commuters going from 78 to 76 coming through Santa Fe. So it's overwhelming to see another high-density structures going up on Bobier and Melrose and Bobier and Santa Fe. What are plans to mitigate our concerns over this traffic safety? Also, overcrowded schools. The residents have talked about, have been complaining that the schools are overcrowded and they're having to take their kids to outside of the community area. Also, energy use in relation to greenhouse gas emission. This is I know it's going to be a requirement by the California SB 32 in the near future, but it looks like they're just getting by without having solar panels for energy mitigation, and no canopy trees that I can see. And I also feel that the sidewalks need to be wider to accommodate high school kids and kids going to and from school, because if we ever witnessed the school beginning hours and the school ending hours, how many children have to use those sidewalks? I am aware that there is a housing shortage, and I consider myself to be a pro-growth person, but I feel that I am more of a smart growth person. I hope the Commission will protect the quality of life in our district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is the last speaker slip that I have on this project. If there's no other speakers, we will close the public hearing. Did you wish to speak?
Hello, my name is Nora Pozos. I firmly oppose this. While the man was speaking, he kept on implying safe, safe, safe. I wanted to know who are these homes targeting? Because it's like for private amenities, so this is not going to help our community. There's also a lot of gentrification occurring here in Vista that is not helping. So it's kind of like who are they targeting? Because it's not targeting our communities of color who are predominantly on North Santa Fe. So I think also this whole safe and creating this private apartment complex or multi-use is not helping or going to improve our livelihoods. So I firmly oppose this. I don't see any positive thing. Yeah, it's so nice that they're gonna have all these gym stuff, but it's just gonna be in like this area where these people live, and this is not gonna help our community. So I think if you guys are able to see that, like, this is not gonna help our community. Like, this is only helping a certain sector. That's not us. Thank you.
Nora, your last name?
Pozos.
Spell it for me, please.
Pozos.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wish to address the commission? Okay, then we will close the public hearing and open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners. Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes, I have a question from the applicant and from staff about during construction and accessibility to those sidewalks. Because kids are walking from the neighborhood east of there down that sidewalk to Vista High School. Because if they don't have that sidewalk, they have to cross Santa Fe, go down to Beaubier, and then cross Santa Fe again. So tell me about access to these sidewalks during construction.
Absolutely. We're working on a full phasing plan and construction logistics plan. I will tell you that the safety of the community is very important to me, and it's one of the first things I heard when we spoke to the community. We've had we closed on the property in this sort of the hole in the donut last year and demolished the house quickly. We've been back and spent tens of thousands of dollars of taking trash off that people have done. We fenced the property on that Cananea Street so that it would stop happening. We made sure that we left a 6-foot buffer because we didn't want people walking on the streets. So I can commit to you that we will have adequate places for people to walk. If there is closures required to install streets, the curb cut, that sort of thing, we'll work with the city to adequately address safety concerns during those times.
John, could you comment on that in terms of what we need to do to ensure that those students who are going to walk from east of this, because they can't go through the shopping center, they have to go around and down Santa Fe to get to Vista High School?
So no, we cannot ensure that the sidewalk stays open 24/7 during construction. That's just a simple fact of any type of construction project where you have to get into the right-of-way. If a temporary sidewalk is required, that's a possibility to push out into the right-of-way and have some structures built to protect pedestrians if that's necessary. That's usually in really urban, heavily developed areas. You don't see it in more suburban areas like this. Typically, we just direct the traffic to the other side of the street for the temporary closure and put them back on the right side, down the road.
So they can go down Cananea, across Santa Fe at the light, take a right, go down to Beaubier at the light, and take a right over to Vista High School.
Yes, or they can cross at the light that serves the center that's just north of the project. But there's a couple locations. It would only be a temporary period during construction, and otherwise there'd be a 6-foot sidewalk along the project frontage and along Cananea.
And what about school fees that will be paid as a result of this construction?
We're estimating that we'll pay over $900,000 in school impact fees to the Vista district.
Just for the public's information, the state law requires a developer pay the school district a fee based on a square footage of their project. It's a certain, dollar number per square foot, and that is mitigation for a new development. And the state requires that fee be paid and count as mitigation unless there's some compelling reason that the project would exceed the number that the city has planned for. That is essentially the mitigation for the impacts to the school district.
I just want to make sure we address the issue of schools. The schools at one time had like 26,000. Now we have like 21,000. So, the numbers, say that they can have some growth.
Okay.
Is this out of the staff report or? Mr. Conley, in the staff report, Exhibit 4 on page 135 of 173, it says sidewalks, 10-foot sidewalk required unless the Planning Commission finds no beneficial use. Can you explain that to me and what our responsibility is here?
So you have the ability to request a 10-foot sidewalk along the North Santa Fe frontage that would comply with what the circulation element requires. We had a pretty extensive discussion about this internally with our city engineer. The staff perspective is that a 6-foot sidewalk is sufficient to provide the amount of pedestrian activity along the street. I know there's heavy periods of usage in the morning and the afternoons when students are coming and going to school, but the 6-foot sidewalk is out there now and we feel like it can accommodate. However, if you want to make it a wider sidewalk along Santa Fe, that's an option. The reason that we stuck with 6 feet is to provide more landscaping and more of a buffer between the buildings because they're fairly close to the street. And we think that that provides a softer frontage and looks more attractive than having a 10-foot wide paved area based on the amount of pedestrian traffic that's out there.
Usually a 10-foot sidewalk is in our commercial areas
Correct.
in downtown and along the commercial areas of Santa Fe.
And there are 10-foot sidewalks north and south of the project site. So it's at the discretion of the commission. If you want to include that, that's certainly something that can be included in the conditions.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Commissioner Jackal?
Thank you. I just had questions about the sidewalks too, which have been
Okay.
answered.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the project? Okay. Then we'll move on from our discussion to a decision. Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Bill.
Thank you. I move that we go with the city's recommendation and adopt is it 2 points? We'll follow this along with the addendum changing the number of parking spaces, correcting that number.
Thank you.
On there. And was there one other item that you wanted to add, Commissioner Gerritsen?
Yeah, the sidewalks. I'd like to have the commission consider making that a 10-foot sidewalk. I think the safety of the students back and forth to school, especially since we have 10-foot sidewalks on that side of Santa Fe already.
Do we have 10-foot sidewalks on that side of Santa Fe?
We do.
South of the project.
North and south of the project along the commercially developed lots.
I'll listen to the applicant and what you have to say about that.
Thank you for letting me speak on the subject. I agree that a 10-foot sidewalk in a commercial area is 10 to 12 is appropriate when you have sidewalk cafes and that sort of thing. With a 6-foot sidewalk, it's enough to accommodate 3 to 4 people shoulder to shoulder crossing. As Mr. Conley pointed out, that is what's on the site, and it slopes down, so there's not really a lot of room past that. We would like to keep the 6-foot sidewalk. Frankly, it'll cost us more to keep the 6-foot sidewalk because we're installing landscaping. And it was important for us not to create a fence to the project as a project fence. As you've probably seen, a lot of projects in the area have a fence surrounding the project. We didn't want to do that. We wanted the building to serve as a entry control point. But we understand there is graffiti in the area, and as the sheriff, one of the conditions from the sheriff's department is to plant some prickly landscaping in between the internal sidewalk and the external sidewalk, and so we see it as both two purposes. One is it looks nice. 2, it will prevent people from accessing the building for graffiti and other reasons. So we respectfully ask that we keep the 6-foot sidewalks for aesthetics, and we think that 6 is adequate.
So before I finish my motion, let's discuss the sidewalk issue and then.
Okay, sure. From my perspective, there are a lot of kids that walk up and down North Santa Fe, going and coming to school. I tend to support the 6-foot sidewalk because of the aesthetics and the landscaping, and 6 feet is sufficient, I think, for at least 2 kids to walk next to each other, maybe 3. So I think with the 6-foot sidewalk, an additional 4 feet isn't going to gain us that much more, in my opinion. Anybody else?
I would say the same. Just the fact that it's landscaping and not a fence or a wall or a building that has to be moved, it makes me feel okay about the 6 foot compared to the 10 foot.
Commissioner Garrison?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll leave the condition, or we'll leave the project with the 6-foot sidewalk. We've got the number of parking spaces. Commissioner Garrettson, was there anything else that you, okay? All right, so are we ready for, we've got a
Motion is made.
We need a second. Commissioner Jackal seconds. Can we cast our votes, please? And the project passes with Commissioner Carroll and Commissioner Kramer being absent. Thank you very much. Mr. Conley, do we need a 5-minute break to get reorganized, or? Your microphone was off. So.
Appreciate your work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, applicant owner, okay.
Okay. What's that? Surprisingly.
Thank you. We'll get going again. Mr. Conley, do you have a staff report on the Laurel Creek condominiums, please?
Thank you, Chairman Rossler and Commission. This is a condominium housing permit, site development plan, and tentative subdivision map for the Laurel Creek condominiums. This project was last before the Planning Commission in May of 2014 for approval of a 71-unit condominium development that is almost identical to what's before you tonight. The project, the new revisions to the project address site design issues related to the feasibility of the retaining walls that were to run along the central portion of the project in the open space area, identified as open space area C, that runs through the center of the project site. Also needed to include biobasins and stormwater requirements in the design to meet the new requirements, so there was some redesign required for that, which required them to lose a couple of units. And the city's affordable housing requirements, or used to be called inclusionary requirements, that were repealed by the City Council in 2015, would no longer apply to the project. So the condo housing permit, site plan, and tentative map is on a 9.24 acre parcel, multiple assessors' parcels that are being combined together in one lot to develop 68 single-family detached condominiums. Equates to a density of about 7.3 dwelling units per acre, Includes drainage improvements, wet and dry utilities, private common driveways to serve the residential units, a recreation building, some private and common open space, and a pedestrian bridge that would connect the two areas of the project, as well as all utilities and infrastructure. The project site is shown here, east of Grapevine Road and north and west of Durian Street, north of Date Street, within the western portion of the city. The property is zoned RM15 and RM21, so a combination of zoning, but multifamily allowing densities up to 15 or 21 units per acre. And the site is designated medium-high density in the general plan and high density in the general plan, the corresponding zoning for 15 or 21 DU per acre multifamily designation. The site is primarily disturbed with non-native grasses, and a drainage runs through the central portion of the site, surrounded by a mix of single and multifamily residential as shown in the overhead photo. Some views of the site from Durian Street. This is on the east side of the property, public street that fronts the site, looking down into the drainage up on the left and center. To the north, you can see the disturbed grasslands and the drainage to the left there. Across the street on Durian, there's some existing multifamily development in the lower slides and multifamily to the south. And from Grapevine, looking southeast up in the northeast corner, upper left-hand corner of the slide, looking east across the site into the drainage. And then looking down Grapevine, you can see some of the street parking in front of the site there. And again, there's multifamily development south of the site at the corner of Date Street and Grapevine. The tentative map, as I mentioned, is a similar design as was proposed before, with private streets extending off of Grapevine and Durian to serve the detached residential units. There is a creek area that's shown in blue that extends through the center portion of the site, with a bridge over the creek to connect the two neighborhoods. And there are some common open space areas identified as A and B on the site plan, which are shown where the green circles are on the east and west sides of the drainage. The open space area C that's shown in blue included a series of retaining walls along both sides of the drainage in order to accommodate the building pads, which had to be redesigned in an effort to design the project, which is part of the reason they had to come back through the entitlement process. 68 single-family homes, 26 homes on the west side and 42 homes on the east side. That would be a one-lot condominium map. The conceptual landscape plan is shown here, would include street trees and front yard landscaping, as well as landscaping along the street frontages of the public streets. And within the open space areas, the landscaping is 33% of the site, which meets the code. And there would be a 5-foot high side and rear yard series of wood fences between the units and a 6-foot high masonry wall along the street frontages of Grapevine and Durian. The proposed floor plans are shown here. There are 3 separate plans with the number of units. And the architectural elevations, there are a series of different architectural elevations included in your packet, all 2-story residences with a maximum height of 26 feet 2 inches. They would have front, rear, and side yards in accordance with the RM zone, and they include some decorative elements that are noted on the slide there, including shutters, sill details, and concrete and flat tile roofs. A total of 3 distinct exterior elevations are provided for each plan. This is just 3 of the series. The project included environmental review, which was a mitigated negative declaration that was done back in 2014 for the first approval. There were 5 comment letters received and responses were provided, which are included in your packet. Because the project proposes less units and none of the existing conditions have significantly changed, we relied on that document for the environmental review for this re-entitlement. The general plan, development code, and design line conformance is included in the report. The density of 7.35 units to the acre is below the maximums of 15 and 21 permitted by the general plan, and the project meets the RM zone and design guidelines requirements for multifamily. And so staff's recommending approval of a mitigated negative declaration and adoption of a resolution approving a housing condo permit, site development plan and tentative subdivision map for 68 single-family detached condos located off Grapevine Road and Durian Street. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Jackal?
Thank you. Mr. Conley, could you locate Bub Williamson Park for me as to where it is with this?
Sure. Bub Williamson is actually northwest of the project site. If I can get back to the aerial photo here, maybe there we go. Just to the west of Jonathan here, it's up over in this area.
Okay, so if you turn left on Jonathan, sort of you get there?
Yeah, you can go down. I don't know if Jonathan is a direct access. I believe it is to the park, but you can get into the park via that street, and then there's a back entrance that's gated off the other street right here, I believe. But the park is just up in this area. So it's just a little west, a couple blocks and north of the project site.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to figure out, where it was.
Okay. Does the applicant have a presentation tonight?
No, I believe they're just here to answer questions.
Okay.
They did fill out a speaker slip.
David Hardy? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Conley, Chair and Commissioners. I'm David Hardy. I'm with the owner applicant Encore. No further presentation, just here for any questions that you may have on the project. Thank you.
Don't go away. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Garrettson?
Just a question about why you put both recreational areas at the south side and not up at the north. And I'm assuming it's because you could put a bridge across the creek
That is
to have
correct.
access. Is that the reason you did it, as opposed to putting one on the south and one on the north?
Yes, sir. We wanted to connect the two open spaces together via the bridge that was conditioned back in 2014.
Okay, just a quick question. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackal?
Get myself sorted out here. Thank you. Okay, I have a couple of questions. For those two open space recreational areas, I didn't see any discussion of, or I didn't see it on the plans. Are there any areas there that have play equipment for kids?
That is not in the plans at this time for a play area for the kids. We do have a small rec building, which will have a bathroom, a small space for cooking, and it will be ADA accessible with the handicap stall for parking as well. But we haven't programmed for play area. It would just be an open space area for the children.
So that was why I asked the question about Bub Williamson Park. I'm just concerned, obviously, with the number of bedrooms, there are going to be kids, and I'm concerned how far they have to go away to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big problem for me. Looking at your elevations, the side elevations for the houses seem very blank to me, and I wish there could be some more architectural articulation.
Staff did provide comment on that. The elevations along Grapevine and Durian Street will be enhanced to include more shutters and articulation.
That's included in the conditions.
I think in Planning Commission number 11, in the conditions of approval, requires them to enhance the elevations that front on those streets.
Okay.
Were you looking for something more than that?
No, I guess within the development, that's not a problem, but I'm glad to know about that. Then in Plan 2, you have a loft that could be an extra bedroom, and in Plan 3, you have the possibility for 2 extra bedrooms. will there be parking for those extra cars?
Each house will provide 2 covered spaces and 2 guest stalls as well. We actually provide 3 additional guest stalls to have a total of 139 guest stalls. At this time, we don't have additional parking for additional bedrooms, but it's not our intention to include those additional bedrooms.
Okay, thank you. I'm just worried about we're going to have parking problems.
Can I follow up on Commissioner Jackal's question? Is it going to be the buyer's option as to whether they have 4th and 5th bedrooms?
No option for additional bedrooms.
Okay. All right. Very good. They're not. 3 bedrooms are the maximum number of bedrooms that they're going to provide.
If the commission is concerned about that, that can always be included as a condition.
Okay. Very good. Commissioner Looney, thank you for letting me follow up with Commissioner Jackal's question.
The way I've looked at the plans, each unit has the potential of, basically has 4 parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 2 in the garage and we have 2 outside. So each living unit has 4 spaces. Also, in looking at the grading plans and the site plan, I believe each living unit has a specific yard area that can be used for play area. Unlike like the previous project, they don't have that luxury where each of these units have a backyard. So that's why I wasn't that concerned about.
And I'd like to point out that from the original plan from 2014 in the plan we have now, we actually increased the common open space by 3,600 square feet. So even though we lost lots to the stormwater mitigation areas, we actually gained some open space, some common usable open space.
You've got some big retaining walls, but I understand why they're 14 and 17 feet in height, because it makes it work. So, thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson?
Just a clarification, please. There are sidewalks throughout, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they're cement sidewalks, not DG or...
Cement.
And they have gutters and drainage and...
That's correct.
And how about pavers for crossing the street? Have you included pavers on that sidewalk area? Or on the area where the pedestrians could be crossing a street?
Yes, sir, we have.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hardy, our staff does a wonderful job of getting our agenda out to us on Wednesday afternoons. So I sit down on Thursday morning and start going through this. And one of the issues that they have raised in the background is the affordable housing requirement. And I struggled with this since Thursday morning. So I need you to make me understand why providing 5 affordable units in your project is a problem for you. From reading the staff report, that's what I'm assuming, that you're asking for those 5 units to be relieved of a requirement of the project. So talk to me about that, please.
Absolutely. So the main intention that we wanted to re-entitle the site was just to address the constructability. So we were obviously approved back in 2014. We're still at the same stage where we were back then of the site being where it is now. So that was the main issue we wanted to come back. And with the affordable housing in mind, we just want to be considered in the same light as every other project that the city now has in front of them for entitlements, including the project that was just in front of us today.
Okay, so it's just to be consistent with everybody else, not that it's a greater burden on you than other folks in the city developing. Okay. Mr. Conley, if they brought a final map in that implemented the original approval, would we find it consistent with the general plan?
Yes.
With the requirement for the 5 units?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Stone, Ms. Chow in her staff report references the Palmer case from Los Angeles. Can you tell me, this is just more of a general education, can you tell me in the Palmer decision, was it based on a general plan inconsistency, an inconsistency with state law? Did Los Angeles have something wrong in their ordinance and their plan that allowed the judge to decide that they didn't need to do the inclusionary housing?
The Palmer case was a case that addressed inclusionary housing.
Right.
And as I recall, it was based upon the Ellis Act, which prohibits rent control. And it concluded that there was a basis, you could not use inclusionary housing to impose controls on rentals. At that point, the city council determined that proceeding with a ordinance that imposed affordable housing only on for sale units and not on rental units was not something that they wanted to continue. And so in 2015, that practice in the city of Vista was terminated.
Right.
And so in this instance, this happens to be a new application. It's being treated in that manner. And so it would be governed not by the old rules that were in place in 2015, but by the current rules in 2018.
Very good. I understand that. Any effort in Sacramento to address inclusionary housing that you're aware of? Both for rental or
Not at the local level, no. I don't know of any pending legislation that would require us to do that again.
Okay. Mr. Connolly, in our housing element for the general plan, we've set out goals for providing housing for low and moderate income households.
Yes.
And the tool for inclusionary on forced sales was one of our tools to implement that.
Yes, it was.
And the council took that away a couple of years ago, and I seem to recall when the issue was here at the Planning Commission, at least I led a charge to say that that was a bad idea. And apparently the council went ahead and removed the condition. If the applicant's agreeable, can we add those 5 inclusionary units back into the project?
I think the first part of your statement there is the problem.
Okay.
That's the reason they've submitted another application, paid fees, and gone back through the entitlement process. So we're compelled to approve their project without the requirement for inclusionary.
I understand. That's why I asked if they agreed to it.
Right. We've had that conversation at length.
Okay.
About
All
the
right.
application.
All right. All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Lindsay Taylor is...
Before we have public speakers, I just wanted to clarify that Bub Williamson Park is actually off of Grapevine, which is just a little north of the photo here. It's not off Jonathan.
Okay.
So it's another block north before you'd go left on Grapevine to access the park. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else from the applicant?
They want to clarify that there are 4-bedroom units and 3-bedroom units,
Right.
not 5-bedroom units. So if the commission wants to condition limiting the size of the units, it would be up to 4 bedrooms per the plans,
Okay.
not 3.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Taylor.
Good evening. Hi. I'm representing the board of directors and the owners.
Name and address.
Lindsay Taylor, 279 Durian Street.
Thank you.
And we're at the Bridge Creek condos, which is north of the proposed project. which is Forest Flower and North Durian, which wasn't really addressed in any of the presentations. We just wanted to make sure of a couple of things. I know in the last presentation at the last meeting, there was talk about whether that was going to be a through street now or not. I don't know if that's still the case, that North Durian is not going to be a through street and we still have the dead end, because they were also talking about creating a fire truck turnout on that end of the street. So we're not sure if that will happen, because that will take up some of our property on both sides as well.
So I can clarify that if you want.
Sure.
There is a connection, but there is no cul-de-sac at the end of the north end of Durian.
So it will be not a through street.
It will be a through street. It will be a private driveway that connects the two ends, but there's no cul-de-sac at the end of Durian, so there's no impact to the north end of Durian that's adjacent to your property. But yes, people could technically drive from the south end of Durian to the north end of Durian through the private streets of the project.
Okay. And I guess that's probably also our other concern is, because we do have private common areas on that end of Durian, and if they're talking about not having private common areas that far north of the project, people will be using our private common areas. So we have that concern. We also had concerns about modifications to the creek. The creek runs through our property as well, and so we just wanted to make sure that any building takes that into consideration as well. That Laurel Creek runs all the way through our property. We also have water table issues where we've had geotechnical experts come out and have given us geotechnical reports, and so we just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that when building your project. Also, I believe that is it. Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the only speaker slip I had on this project. Is there anyone else wishing to address the commission on the Laurel Street condominiums? Okay, if not, we'll open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners. Commissioner Garrettson?
Yeah, I would just like to have an answer to the question about the creek drainage that she addressed in terms of...
With respect, well, the creek in the development north of the project is upstream, so it's flowing downstream through the project site, so I don't know that there's going to be any impact to upstream waters. It doesn't affect the floodplain. It doesn't constrict flows in any way. They have to detain all of their stormwater in detention basins on site before they can discharge into the stream, so we do not anticipate at the engineering level any impact upstream at all.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Looney?
Yeah, John, is there any maintenance on that stream north of the given property? Because when I was out there Sunday afternoon, it was a jungle. I mean,
Yeah,
and that was
so-
after they had cleared the trees for this particular
This
property.
becomes a problem for most privately owned drainage areas. They require maintenance, but it's restricted because of the resource agency limitations that are put on it. So you have to maintain it, but you have to go get permits to maintain it, and it costs money and takes time and requires consultants, so it's kind of a mess. But the creek area upstream is the responsibility of the property ownership, the association, just as this creek area is going to be the maintenance responsibility of this association.
Well, it's going to be a lot easier with the reduction of trees and foliage that was removed. So at least they can enjoy that creek.
We've been working, we haven't historically worked with the association upstream because they've come to us with the same problem of we want to clean it out, we want to maintain it, but it requires permit authority, so it's a difficult issue to tackle. We try to deal with it at the time of development, which we're doing on this property, but we didn't really have that benefit on the property north of this.
Okay, thank you, John.
Anything else? Just let me say that on the inclusionary housing, I started thinking about it this weekend, and I thought about all the units that this commission has reviewed and approved over the last 2 years, and the number of affordable units that we could have had for our citizens it just it just disappointed me. I think, you know, I think we've done a disservice by not having that requirement. Now, should we take it out on Mr. Hardy and his folks because they changed the requirement? I don't know that that's entirely fair, but an idea came to me, Mr. Connolly, that perhaps we need to have a workshop with the City Council to explore affordable housing. I mean, we read every day in the news that housing affordability in Southern California is one of the main reasons people are leaving are having a difficult. They cited as for homeless and for people leaving the state as one of the reasons. So here we had an opportunity to at least provide 5 units for I think a moderate income household, and we're not able to do that. So just I'll get off my soapbox and.
So how many affordable units were built on Santa Fe downtown? You know, right along the railroad track in that corridor.
The 2 projects?
135 total.
35 affordable units.
Between the 2 projects.
And those were low-income units, right?
They were a mix of low, very low, and moderate.
Okay.
Which is a good number of units.
That is true.
What we found, honestly, is that the inclusionary requirements amounted to a very small percentage of affordable units where we could use our affordable housing money to build larger developments and provide more bang for the buck. So that's what we've been doing for the most part. There is one more affordable project being looked at on South Santa Fe, south of where Paseo Point was built within that Paseo corridor, and that will be coming before the commission probably within the next year and a half. So
Okay.
We're still pursuing affordable housing projects, but you're right, not inclusionary.
So anyway, I struggled all weekend. I had half a mind to come in here and vote no tonight on the project. But anyway, so would someone like to make a motion?
Before we do that, Commissioner, I'd like to get the applicant to come up and talk about the 3 and 4 bedroom. I just want to make sure we're all clear.
Yes. Mr. Hardy or?
Thank you. Yeah, that's correct. So depending on the floor plan, it'll range between 3 and 4 bedrooms.
Okay. So on Plan 3, where it offers 2 options for a 4th bedroom, there won't be 5 bedrooms in that unit?
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Jackal, is that all right with you? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So maybe a condition of approval that on Plan 3, only 4 bedrooms will be allowed on that plan. Okay? All right. Commissioner Garrettson.
I would like to move for approval with the provision that in the 3-bedroom, there will only be 3 bedrooms, or Plan 3, there will only be 4 bedrooms.
There we go.
And not 5, that be part of the condition.
All right. Do we have a second? Commissioner Jackal seconds. Any further discussion? Cast your vote, please. And the motion passes unanimously with the commissioners present, with Commissioner Carroll and Commissioner Kramer absent. So, all right. So that concludes our public hearings tonight. The next item on our agenda is a report from Mr. Connolly about what else is going on in the city.
So tonight is Joni Turley's last Planning Commission meeting of her career as our administrative secretary for the commission. So I want to wish Joni the best in her retirement. She's going to be leaving at the end of June. Our next meeting will be July 17th, so this will be it. I'm still going to make her write the minutes from this meeting, though, so she still has to suffer a little bit. But I did want to let the commission know that our next meeting will be on July 17th. We have a recess, no meeting in late June and no meeting in early July because of the 4th. And we'll have a couple projects on the agenda on the 17th, so hope everybody enjoys a nice summer break.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
That's all you have. Ms. Turley, I have been involved in the production of Planning Commission agendas throughout my career, and it is a process that is fraught with opportunities for mistakes and glitches. And I just wanted to commend you on the, I guess, 5 years that I've been on the commission, how well. I look forward to your visits on Wednesday afternoon with a packet, and I would just wish you the absolute best in retirement. And as I've told all my friends, I recommend it to all my friends. So it's a good thing. So, any other comments? All right.
I would like to make a comment and just second the chairman's comments. Joan, we really, really enjoy working with you. I too look forward to, running out front before you leave so I can chat with you for a while. But best of luck to you. Thank you so much for all your support.
All right. If there's nothing else, then we will stand adjourned to July 17th. Very good.